kind of wanted to talk about something that I've sort of seen just with certain, I guess, like YouTubers or Instagram personalities or um, celebrities or something. Like as you continue to get bigger, they tend to kind of take like one path or the other. One being that you kind of go towards like kind of getting people to idolize you and you become like a public figure and like a celebrity or a big deal in like some way. And then the other is kind of like you become, you kind of become or remain someone that like people can relate to, and you don't change who you are too much, you don't change your personality too much, or just how you look in the public figure too much, you're still the same guy. And I feel like maybe there's some in between, but then for the most part, like people tend to kind of want to, consciously or unconsciously, represent themselves as one or the other. You see them on social media, and then they're kind of like a big deal, like a big fitness personality, or like, or they're not. Like even then, like they kind of stay true to who they were in the beginning and to their original personality, and they seem like pretty relatable, and that like there's someone you could just like sit down and have a conversation with. And I think like whatever they play as, it kind of works. So like if they play as someone who you're supposed to idolize and like really look up to, and like you're like a big deal and stuff, then like kids and like a lot of other people, adults even, will idolize you and really look up to you. And then if you play as someone who's like kind of like everyone else, then people will like you or not like you for that reason too. That, oh, like you're relatable, you're just like everyone else, you're just a regular guy. And even with all the big things that you're doing, you're still just you know and people tend to want to kind of represent one or the other, and sort of tend towards one or the other, I feel like. um, Now my thoughts on that are that like I guess it's okay in some ways, and it's like people choose to be who they want to be. But I feel like whether you're kind of famous online or not, like a big, I guess the fame isn't quite the right word, it's like prominent online or not, the the choice is up to you how you decide to kind of portray yourself to a certain degree. And then to a certain degree people will perceive you a certain way, but then to some degree it is like how you decide to project yourself out to the world and to other people, and how to display yourself. um, but with that, I also feel that there's an element of like things that are outside your control. Like once you start to put yourself out there, you might unconsciously lean towards becoming a celebrity figure who everyone begins to idolize and stuff. And you get almost like, what's the word, like messianic following, like people start to worship you and stuff, or look up to you in that way. And I feel like that can kind of be a bad thing potentially if it gets out of hand. um, I think like people sort of, if you start to get into the habit of portraying yourself as a celebrity and like as a big deal, you'll start to think that yourself, and that can be very bad. I think that probably contributes or leads to a lot of the people who are massively successful, like having drug problems and stuff, or having to go to rehab and having depression or other issues. I saw like an interview of Jonah Hill recently, and he seemed like happy. He got a bunch of tattoos. He looked like changed and pretty different. And he was saying that like kind of like for the last many years, like he kind of felt like he was like pretending to be someone, but now that like he was kind of displaying himself as like his true self and who he really was. And like, people can kind of watch that and be like, oh, like, that's like fucking stupid, like what does that even mean, like you have so much money and stuff, and they can't relate. But I mean, with any kind of success, you begin to be able to relate, because it's like success doesn't change who you are on the inside. It doesn't change who you are as a person. And you want to still be able to be the same person in those ways, in like how you are as a human being, how you are to other people. And if that begins to change because you're displaying yourself differently, or because you feel like you always have to act and stuff and always put yourself out a certain way, then I mean that can probably affect your psychology, and it can affect how you um, kind of feel about yourself, and that can be not so good a thing, you know. So I think that the bigger you get with a following, and I see this with myself, or just like with success in the gym, it's important to try and be humble, to try and retain some sense of like who you've always been, and try and still always be that same person. And I feel that serves to keep you happy, to keep you fuck serves to keep you happy, to keep you sincere, to keep you true to who you were and who you have been, and it continues to kind of lead you towards the path of authenticity and humbleness and sincerity, and being like a true reflection of who you are on the inside, and just being very comfortable with yourself and not having to show or anything or prove anything, but just being yourself. And this is like something you're growing that's turned into something much bigger than you perhaps have expected, but still you're just trying to share or educate or be useful in some way and help other people out. Other than that, you're just a regular guy, and that's important. And I think that also helps further success or further wins down the future, because you can be pretty content at the end of the day with everything that's happened. You can be growing and building towards what you're building, but then you know that the best happiness comes from a lot of the things that you already have. The happiness comes from the pursuit of what you're kind of working towards, but then also, I mean, your family, your relationships, the close people who you have, and then like people you've been able to impact, and then just those things, those very simple things that you don't get more of necessarily with more success or more material success. And I think happiness comes from those things, and also from just having very meaningful work that's very fulfilling, and that also with success you don't want to like taint or kind of spoil or change. You know, you don't want your work to change, which is something else that depresses a lot of celebrities or big people, when their work has to change, like the nature of it and how they conduct it and go about it, because they've become famous or successful suddenly, you know, and they quote unquote sell out, or I mean do things that they typically wouldn't, or aren't true to what they'd want to do and stuff, you know. And it's a shame, but then it's always like the person is the actor, you know. And by actor I don't mean actor like in profession, but actor as in like you're the person who acts, you're the person who commits the action, you're the person who decides what they want to do at the end of the day. And at the end of the day we all have choice, so you can decide to say like, oh, like F you to your agent or to whoever you feel like is kind of trying to make you do certain things, or the peer pressures or whatever, you know. And like you can go about back to the path of authenticity and to doing things that you kind of want to do, because at the end of the day that's what will make you happy, and that's often what you can be the best at and the most useful at, when it's in alignment with what you fundamentally want to do on the inside, you know, and it's fulfilling to you, and then you can be the very best at it, and it can be very fulfilling and gratifying and kind of enriching to other people, versus something that you had to kind of artificially make and follow some script, and everyone's like worshiping you like a celebrity, but you feel like your soul isn't attached to it. And and I mean it's just like another kind of cut and paste, like cardboard dry thing, you know. um and I feel like a lot of people have this with success, and like you get the lifters who have to post on Instagram, have to show all their lifts, and maybe they don't want to do a competition but they have to because all their friends are doing it. And you can, and same like with movie stars too, like they have to do like stupid movies that they don't want to do, versus like saying like, no, I'm only going to do these that I really want to do. Maybe they'll make a lot less money, but then maybe they can do it, you know. Same with politicians, they have to like advocate and say and do things that like maybe they don't care about, but they're like kind of owned by money or by, I guess, what they're trying to do. I feel like most people, many people don't own themselves, and we tend to think that when you have material success that you will own yourself, but often that's not the case, and often you won't. And owning yourself is a choice, and it's one that begins today. It doesn't take much money or a great deal of time, but it takes decisive action. It takes being able to say yes, decisively yes to certain things, It takes willing to absolutely be like willing to say no to certain things. It takes often going against convention, often going against norm, often going against other people who are telling you what to do, but often that's not what's in alignment with kind of like your heart or what you feel is authentic on the inside. And I think to some degree those things really deeply matter, and you should be coming from a place of authenticity and of fulfillment and of kind of personal growth. Like, you feel like you're doing things that are fulfilling and like have some purpose to them, even if they are part of a system or a rat race or whatever. The choice makes all the difference, perception makes all the difference, but to some degree we can alter perception, but to some degree it doesn't align with like how we really feel on the inside, so like to some degree we can like make ourselves like the shit job that we hate doing. We can make ourselves like it to some degree, but then also to some degree it's like you want to do something that you like, and if you really fundamentally don't like it, then no amount of positive thinking can sort of change it. So I feel like it's a journey and it's a choice, but at the end of the day, like success doesn't necessarily change who you are if you don't let it. And I think just with any success or any of this growth or journey or any of that, like one of the biggest things is to see how you're changing and growing as a human being and as a person. And that like kind of old saying is true, that it's not like what you get or like the returns or the results or the rewards or riches that you're getting or the successes, quote unquote, that you're getting, but it's who you're becoming that really matters, and that you want to continue to aspire towards and kind of grow towards. What kind of person are you becoming? And you want to continue to grow as a person and to continue to develop your character in those ways. I think ultimately that's the most fulfilling thing. And then just being good to your relationships and true to the work that's like authentically coming from you, and being, I just guess, like authentic and true to yourself and to other people. That's the most fulfilling thing, and it's a choice. Maybe it's something that people who are successful or at the very top struggle with, but I think everyone in general kind of struggles with it. But once you can kind of be more true to that, it's all in all like a very fulfilling and happy life, and then you can continue to work towards what you're working towards without too much disappointment if things don't always go successful like right away. you know um, I think you're like, everyone's playing the game, but if you do it that way, maybe you're playing it for more meaningful reasons. So yeah.